question is it different from the traditional finance? Since long time we have been studying about the finance, traditional finance. So how it is different from the traditional finance? The answer is yes, it is different from the traditional finance. But the question is how? There are certain assumptions in traditional finance and behavioral finance, and this is how we'll try to understand the difference between the traditional finance and behavioral finance. So the first assumption in traditional finance is that people process data appropriately and correctly. Whatever the theories we have studied in traditional finance, right from the modern portfolio theory of then capital asset pricing model, then arbitrage pricing theory, asset pricing theory, or Modigliani and Miller's dividend theory or valuation theory. So many theories are there. And the one assumption in all the theories, all the finance, is that people process data appropriately and correctly. But behavioral finance, it assumes that people employ imperfect rules of thumb, that is the heuristics, to process data, which includes biases in their belief and predisposes them to commit errors. There is no perfect way of processing data. Everyone will be having their own way of analyzing the data or processing the data based on the person's expertise, based on the person's preconceived notion, based on the person's understanding of the data. Everybody will be processing the data from their own perspective, and it will be based on their belief, and the predisposes them to commit error. And because of that, there is no perfect decision, as we have already understand in the previous session, and we are prone to commit errors. People view all decisions through the transparent and objective lens of risk and return, inconsequential frame decision. Traditional finance, it assumes that people view all decisions through the transparent and objective lens of risk and return. But my dear friends, just let me ask you one question. Do you think that only risk and return are the only criteria to evaluate a decision? Or there are some other decisions or some other parameters also to evaluate a decision? There are psychology, there are sociology, anthropology, political science. A person residing in China, he or she may not have the same set of decision frames or same type of decision as a person who is residing in USA. Reason being, a person who is in China, basically it is his or her political system which is commanding or which is dictating what kind of decision that person will be taking. Because China is basically a communist economy, USA is basically a capitalist economy, and this communist economy and capitalist economy, both of them have a dictation on what kind of decision people will be taking, the environment. But perception of risk and returns are significantly influenced by how decisions or problems are framed. How problems are framed? Let me tell you a story. There was a king, and in his kingdom, one scholar came, and he was a great astrologer. He said that I can, and normally in all our stories, the kings, they do not have anything to do. They simply just to sit down and just to have some fun. And one of the astrologer came and he said that he is a very learned scholar, learned astrologer, and he can say anything. He can whatever will be the future, he can predict it very correctly. King said, okay, tell me my future. The astrologer said that you will see all of your family members dying in front of you. Then the king gets offended and he said, how can you say that all my family members will die in front of me? Put him in jail. He was put into the jail. His son, that is astrologer's son, he came to know that his father is put into jail for speaking the truth. He again went to the king and said that I'm also an astrologer and I can also say you the future, what the future will be yours, that is very correctly and very predictable. King was very happy and said, yes, tell me my future. He said that you will be the longest surviving person in your entire family. This was the version he has said. What he said? You will be the longest surviving person in your entire family. King was very happy. Yes. Now ask me what you want in return from me. He said, I don't want anything, any materialistic thing from you. Just release my father to whom you have imprisoned the day before. King was very happy and he released his father. And when both of them went out of the court, one person have said, sir, do you understand what he said? King asked, what? Both of them have said the same thing, that you will be the longest surviving person in your family. It means that you will see each of your family members dying in front of you. So this is how the framing effect, how the problems are framed that have an impact on the decision people make. Both of them, if you just go by the rational paradigm, that both of them have stated the same thing, one and the same thing, that you will be the longest surviving member in your family and you will see each of your family members dying in front of you. Both are exactly the same thing. But how the problems are framed, how the sentences are being presented, it have an impact on the decision people have made. So it's not only the risk and return, but it's the how the problems are framed that have an impact in real life. And here lies the importance of behavioral finance. Traditional finance, it says that people are guided by logic, reason, and independent judgment. But my dear friends, you just ask yourself how many times you have been guided by reason, logic, and independent judgment. As sir have said that you might have the feel that you are a very logical person, you are a very rational person, but even the rationality is not very logic. It is based on some preconceived notions. Here, most of you are the researchers, and I'm just giving you one example that while testing hypothesis, normally we set a level of confidence that is 95% and 5% level of significance. And at 5% level of significance or 1% level of significance, we test the hypothesis, we do the test, T test, F test, chi-square test, Z test, so many tests are there. So 1% or 5%, normally we use 1% or 5% level of significance and we arrive at certain decision and we infer the decisions. But the question is, why 5%? Why not 4%? Why not 3%? Either we will go for 5% or we will go for 1%. Okay, so why not 2%? Why not 2.5%? Why not 3%? If not 1%, then directly we'll go to 5%. Meaning thereby, we remain subjective though we are trying to remain objective. We are trying to become objective by testing the hypothesis at 1% or 5%, but we are actually subjective though we are trying to remain objective with this. So that's why people are guided by logic and independent judgment, but actually they are not. And behavioral finance, it says that people are guided by emotions, herd instincts for making any decision. Our emotions, what kind of emotions we have, like just give me one, let me tell you one example. There are two companies in front of you and you have to make an investment. One is, I'm just telling the name of that company, say it is Infosys, and another is a company from China. A company from China is very profitable company. Then Infosys, it is on all the parameters of Infosys, company from China is very profitable. But many of us will not go for investment in a company that is Chinese company, and we will go for investment in Infosys or Tata Consultancy Services or any Indian company. It is because of our emotions. We feel attached to a company which is from India, and we do not want to invest in a company which is not in a very good terms with India. That is, our emotions play a very important role. But our logic say that invest in a company which is very profitable, but our emotions will say that invest in a company which is our company, which belongs to our country. This is just an example There can be a home site bias, there can be familiarity bias, there can be several biases. So emotions will play a role in making our decision or influencing decisions. So here is the difference between the traditional finance and behavioral finance. Traditional finance, it assumes that markets are efficient. Market prices of each security is an unbiased estimate of its intrinsic value. Now here the term intrinsic value, that the market price of an security is unbiased estimates of intrinsic value. Now what is intrinsic value? The fair value, the true value of a company. But what is the true value of a company? Even the true value of a company, it is not true, or even it is not same all the time. At one point of time it is one thing, at another point of time it is another. In a booming market, its true value will be different. In a bullish market, its in a bearish market, its intrinsic value will be different. So if you ask any person, a person in the stock market or any player in the market, that is the prices are conforming to the intrinsic value, that person, most of the time that person might say that what is intrinsic value, though theoretically he may arrive at some number, but he or she may not be sure about the intrinsic value. Had it been the case that the person is very much certain about the intrinsic value, there would not have been any fluctuation in the market. There is just so much of the fluctuation in the stock market or any property prices. It means that markets are not efficient, means, and theoretically also it has been established that markets are not efficient in the short run. In the long run, it may be have some efficiency, that too also in the weak form of market efficiency, but in the short run there is no efficiency in the market. And behavioral finance, it assumes that heuristic driven biases, errors, frame dependence, and the effects of emotions and social influence often lead to discrepancy between the market price and fundamental value. Now we'll discuss like heuristic driven biases. Heuristics are the judgmental shortcuts, errors. Frame dependence, how the decisions are or the problems are being framed, we have already discussed. Emotions, social influence. Social influence, like one category, say Islamic finance. You might have heard about Islamic finance or the Muslim investors. Muslim investor, they do not want to invest. Actually, their religion is prohibiting them from investing in a company which actually deals with certain prohibited items. Say, for example, if a company is dealing with the interest, if the company is dealing in liquor, if the company is dealing in gambling, then the Sharia, it prohibits them to invest into those companies. That is the Islamic finance, a new domain is coming. So it's a society, it's a social influence. And if you ask a person who is a believer in Sharia, ask him that you invest in a company, this company X is a very profitable company, and he will ask what kind of business this company does. He said this company is actually in the business of production, market and marketing of alcohols. That person will simply say, no, I will not invest in this company, howsoever profitable it is, because it is his social influence which is guiding that person not to invest in that company. So meaning thereby, he is not guided by simply risk and return, but actually his belief, social influence is guiding him to go for certain kinds of investment. So this is how, just in brief, like how this